Welcome everybody to the Pucks and Pars podcast. We have a special guest for this episode today. He's a Spieth tracker on Instagram, and he's one of the hosts of the Go Get That podcast, which discusses Jordan Spieth and just golf in general. The name is in reference to the 2017 Open Championship at Birkdale, and their logo actually is him pointing to the to for Michael Greller to go get the ball, which happened in 2017, and he's nice enough to join us today. So Jordan, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, George, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. Happy to be here.
Thanks. So with his Jordan Spieth's season so far, coming off the wrist surgery and just trying to like rebound from a down year last year when he was hurt for most if not all the year. What have you thought of his season so far, and like how is it compared to your expectations?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's been, I'd say, a pretty good year. I think kind of talking like him now, mirroring a lot of the sentiments that I think he shared whenever he's talked to the media. It's been good. I mean, it's just really chasing that consistency. I mean, he's shown everything, every part of that game at, that peak level. And it's just about putting it together and, playing consistent golf. I think that's kind of what all these top guys on tour are trying to do. And then obviously, his fellow Longhorn, Scotty Scheffler's kind of mastered it and has been blowing everyone away on a weekly basis. But
Yeah,
yeah, in terms of Jordan, I've been pretty pleased. I mean, I think you got to be kidding yourself if you had expectations a whole lot higher than kind of what he's put together so far this year. I mean, it's been a good year and it's been his best year probably since 2021. I mean, it's been better than
yep,
24, it's been better than 23, and I know he snuck a win in 2022, but I mean, 2022 is far from a inconsistent year either.
yeah.
So,
And the one win was not a very it was he had to come back a lot and on Sunday as well.
yeah, a lot of things had to go right at the
Yeah,
RBC Heritage in 2022 for him.
yeah, and he was I would say he's been in contention like at least two or three times, like definitely at Memorial, even with the bogey finish on Saturday. If Scotty was not in the lead, I think everyone still would have given him at least some chance on Sunday. It's just chasing down Scheffler from like I think it was five back is not a very easy task these days.
No, you can't. I mean, I did a Q&A on my Instagram actually
Yep.
over the weekend, and I'm like, if Jordan can finish within 10 shots of Scotty at Oakmont this coming week, I'd feel pretty good, and I'm still holding it. I mean, I think he's going to win the golf tournament, and yeah, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
what he's doing. It's pretty hard to catch up with, and if you're spotting him 5 shots on a Sunday, it's just you're not expecting him to shoot over par,
Right.
and you got to do a whole lot. But yeah, Memorial is a good week for Jordan. Hopefully looking to carry it into this week.
Yeah. And I would say Phoenix was probably his other best chance to win because has I think four top tens.
Yes,
Two of
yeah.
them he was behind. Like at Byron Nelson, he was well behind. It was he made up all the ground on with Sunday, and then at Cognizant he was also behind. But except that one hole was basically on a Friday was his undoing on a 17.
Yes, yep.
Yeah. But overall, I would say his driving is mostly carried over from last year. Maybe not quite as good, but he had the bar set pretty high last year. His uh iron play is what's like it's like it seems like, and I've seen you say this before too. It's very hit or miss. Like one round he's great, next round he can't find a green.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely the most frustrating part of the game for me as I watch Jordan Spieth play golf. I mean, you mentioned Phoenix, that other like really good, like that's the best it's been this year, and that's 4 months ago. That was his second start off of surgery. So it's like
Yeah,
if you want to have any disappointment about this year to this point, it's like the best we saw, or really the best week in total, was his second start back, and it's like why can't we do that again? But yeah, you kind of said it. just consistency is kind of what we're chasing. That's probably what he's kind of thinking as well. Which the more times you play, the more chances you give yourself to really try and build that.
Yep, and over his putting, I would say it has been hit or miss as well. He's had some places like it seems like he always puts poorly at Pebble Beach, and he usually puts pretty well at like Bay Hill a few of the Florida and Texas venues. It's like Pebble Beach and majors. It seems like he's spotty. It's like it depends on the course and the type of grass with the putting for him, I would say, and that's been the same for this year.
Yeah, no, you kind of said it well. He's a streaky player. He'll putt well at the places he typically putts well, and then the bad places, the expectations are pretty low. But it's been better than last year. It's been a nice step in the right direction this year. He's making some
Yeah.
long ones, and there'll be people out there that say that's luck, but I mean, I don't think it's a luck really thing at all. I mean, he's just more confident reading the greens from that, distance and getting the speed right. And it's really just about how he can get that, transferred inside of 10 feet where it can be a roller coaster on a pretty consistent basis.
Yeah, like at a Muirfield, it's his putting inside of 10 feet was probably costed him a chance to catch Scotty because he missed a bunch of putts, especially the first 3 days. On Sunday, he was better, and I would say the putting's actually saved his round. But the first few days, especially inside 10 feet, it was a big struggle for him, I would say.
Yeah, no, it's kind of been that way. I know. And I talk with Bob from our podcast. We talk putting
Yep.
all the time. And it's like he kind of points it out that inside of 10 feet, it can be a pretty brutal watch. And it's a lot of it's just, he doesn't put as good of a stroke on the ball. He's not, mentally as much into it, I would say, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, overall, you look at the statistical profile, and he's a lot better this year. And I think the finishes kind of have, went along with that. I mean, he's a bad putter away from, being miscut at the two majors so far. I mean, he putted really well at Augusta this year, which was a nice change of pace, and he needed it
Yep.
because he could not hit an iron shot to save his life a couple months ago.
Yeah. And it's like people say that his putting, especially from 25 feet, was the main reason behind his success from 2015 through 2017. But if you look at it in 2019, he was like second or third in strokes gained putting. It's just the rest of his game, especially his ball striking, wasn't there that year. And then when his ball striking came back in 2022, he couldn't make a putt, which was why he didn't contend more often. So it's almost like as his ball striking has come back from his slump, it's the putting is kind of not caught up exactly.
As my buddy Dan likes to say it as whack-a-mole. It's
Yeah.
always just there's always something that's just not working,
Yep.
and you look at to win at the golf tournament, you kind of have to have everything working, and that's why he kind of hasn't won in, a 3 year stretch. But he's shown that he can do everything at a really high level. That's
Yeah.
what gives me, I think, optimism, especially this year. I mean, it's been, first year back off of, wrist surgery, which,
Mm.
I mean, it was, a long off season. Um, since he teed it up at the FedEx St. Jude last summer, and you're just
Yeah.
thinking, how's he going to come back? Is he going to be able to play, pretty good golf? And I'd say he's played good golf this year. I don't know how much
Definitely.
you want to touch on the Ryder Cup while I'm on, but I think as of right now, he's probably on that team.
Yep.
I think I think a lot of it's got to do with some of the American players not playing great, some of them going to live and, not really having the same form. But I think he's happy with where he is, and it's all about just matching up that consistency now and getting into the picture on a Sunday or two.
I saw your projected team from the Q&A on Saturday, and we'll touch on that in a bit. But I would say like he seems like it's a more of a ever since he's been back, it seemed like a more of a long-term vision that he has for himself, as opposed to just this year. He did always said that one of his goals is to make the team at Bethpage, but it seems like he's less concerned about the short term and more trying to make sure he has a good long-term future.
Yeah, no, he's mentioned the 10 to 15 year outlook quite a bit. And, as a fan, I'm self-oscillating. Can we make that like a 5 year outlook, Jordan? Especially as
Yeah.
I'm running the account on Instagram. But it could be a fun 10 to 15 year outlook if this is, the worst year of that 10 to 15 year stretch, because what he's shown this year is he's had a pretty high floor. He's played, well. He hasn't really. I mean, I look at what Rory did last week in Canada. I mean, that was, if you're a Rory fan, a pretty brutal
Brutal.
watch. Jordan hasn't had a week like that.
Yeah.
Thankfully this year, he was missing the cut by 7 shots. But yeah, he stressed the 10 to 15 year outlook, and I get it. I mean, it's major wrist surgery.
Mhm.
It's a lot, and he's also alluded to it's not just the wrist surgery. He hadn't been playing great golf. I mean, I think the last time he's played good to great golf was 21,
Yep.
22 through 24 haven't been good. And mechanically, I think he, pretty clear with some of the iron swings he makes. He's a little bit off, and there's some good,
Yep.
but it's about piecing together, getting the bad to be average instead of really bad.
Yeah. And I would say like during that stretch between uh Valero, Augusta, and Hilton Head, he finished like T12, T14, and then T18, I think. And it didn't seem to me like he had his A or even B game any of those weeks, and he still clawed out good finishes. Whereas last year, I think he finished T10 in Texas, but if he didn't have that ace, he probably would have missed the cut, I would think. 'Cause that ace kind of saved his round and week there, and then he was awful at Augusta, and then outside of the first 9 holes at Hilton Head, he was didn't do much there either. So he's finishing at most events better this year than last year, which is like a clear improvement, I'd say.
Yeah, last year was brutal, especially like when everyone knew the wrist was a big problem and the surgery was coming towards, the end once the year ended. I mean, last year was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, the finishes kind of matched. I mean, it was tough to watch as a fan. I mean, you were no chance on a weekly basis, and then this year it's been a nice improvement. I think he's got what, 7 top 25s, I think I
Yep.
see. He's got some decent stuff. I mean, I think as a fan, we like dominance and we like wins, and that's kind of, we're looking for that next gear from him. It doesn't seem like it's that far away.
Yeah.
But we're trying to get from good golf, which I think what he's doing right now, to great golf, and that's not an easy step, but I think one that I would hope we're somewhat close to.
He's got two missed cuts on the year, and one of them was at the PGA by a stroke, and the first round destroyed him there. And the second was at a course that he like never plays well at. He was decent there at the U.S. Open a few years ago, but outside of that, he never plays Torrey Pines well at all, it seems.
No, Toro is a mess for him pretty much every time he tees it up there.
Yeah.
Besides that, 21 US Open when he played well, but it checks out that he played well at that US Open because 21 was a fun year as a Spieth
Yep.
fan. Um, Won once, probably could have won 3 times. I mean, stroke at one event, stroke at another event.
Hmm.
That was a fun year. It's kind of what I'm chasing as a fan right now. I think 15 through 17, that's a long time ago, but
Yeah.
2021's not that long ago, and he was playing late on a lot of weekends that year.
He was up to
Um,
second in a data golf at one point that year as well.
yeah, I think that's what it's easier to chase something 4 years ago than eight
Yep.
years ago.
Like
That
Phoenix,
was a fun year.
yeah, Phoenix, Pebble, Bay Hill, Augusta, St. George's. I mean,
Colonial,
yep,
yeah.
that was probably the one that he should have had the most out of all of them that year.
Yeah, and he was a good
Pebble.
putter away from really being in it at Augusta. I mean, he couldn't make a thing that year at the
Yep.
Masters. That was a really fun year, and that's kind of what I'm chasing right now as a fan.
And this is the closest I think that we've, at least I felt since that point.
Yeah. No, I don't think he's that far away. He's just got to get a little bit better with, the approach play,
Yeah.
or the putting. Again, the drive, because remember, he's driving it. I'm sure not remember, but like he's driving it better this year than he did that year.
Yep.
The short game is kind of back to, the sta it's not been great this year, but I mean, you look at the kind of the statistical, short game that he's had over the course of his career, it's right in line with what he's done most years.
Yeah.
He's just gotta, hit those irons and wedges a little bit more consistent and, make the bad days closer to par instead of two, three over.
With the sh short game, it's like the routine stuff is what scares me most because with like the complicated up and downs where he has to use his imagination and it's like a 1 in 5 s s s situation, it's like those are the ones that he excels at, whereas the basic up and downs are the ones that are holding him back, if anything, at least in my opinion.
No, you're spot on. I think with the basic, he tries to get technical. And,
Yeah.
the last thing I want Jordan Spieth doing is getting technical.
Yeah.
I mean, I really wish, I love Michael Greller. Sometimes I wish Michael would tell him, go hit the damn ball and just
Yep.
be an athlete. Yeah, the routine ones, I think he just gets technical. I'm trying to hit it here. I'm trying to go in at this angle. And it's just, the hard stuff. It's just,
Yeah.
okay, I'm trying to land it here and watch it feed 15 feet to the left, which will be awesome this week at Oakmont. Because, I mean,
Definitely.
there's no really creativity here. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
creativity to where you land it here and watch it trickle, but the lies are going to be what they are, and you're just going to have to land it and
Yeah.
see the green. And because with all the slope these weeks,
And there's very few routine up and downs this week with like how the green slope and the rough and the deep bunkers. It's like it's a fun test of golf for sure, and I'm excited for it. And overall, I saw you discuss this during the Q&A on s s Saturday, but the course definitely just is not the course that he would assume fits his game the most. It's like it exposes any weakness that you have, but the his iron play will have to be much better. The driver can be his weapon if he can find the fairways, but overall the iron play and short game is the key.
yeah, I mean, in theory, with the driver, if he's hitting these fairways, I mean, they're going to be must hit this week.
Yep.
Based on some of the rough videos we're kind of seeing. If he can just, tighten in these iron shots, I think I'd appreciate if it got as firm as possible. I know they've gotten some rain in that area, but I think if it gets
Yeah.
as firm as possible, everyone will be missing greens, and I'll take his short game. Because the short game shots he's going to play are going to be similar to the ones played at Memorial that he did a pretty darn good job with.
Mm.
So yeah, I guess there's some optimism in that regard. And it's really just the putter. Like he statistically in U.S. Opens has not putted well
Yep.
in a U.S. Open. He hasn't putted well in any of the last six where strokes gained data has been available. Six straight U.S. Opens he's putted not good. I mean, it's tough to get up, especially with all these par putts that you're going to have at a U.S. Open. You got to make them, and he just these last 6 years has found ways to miss them in every which way.
With how tough the course is, there's going to be lots of 10-foot par saves, and whoever makes the most or gets up and down the most probably is going to have a good chance to win.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. I think Oakmont might be my favorite U.S. Open venue.
Yeah.
Kind of irritated I'm not there this week. I have some work to do from home, but
Yeah.
I love it. I love the traditional U.S. Open setups that are just, the long rough. I'm from the Northeast, so I really appreciate the golf up here, the older style golf courses. And yeah,
Yep.
I think it's going to be an awesome test, and I think if you could give me 70 for 4 straight days, I don't know if it's going to win it this week, but if I'm
You'll come
speaking for
close.
Jordan Speed,
Yeah.
four straight 70s would be a really good finish, probably my best finish at a U.S. Open in a long, long time.
And the last time that the event was held at Oakmont, which was 2016, he finished a tie for 37th at 9 over. And if you translate his game from 2016 to now, T 37 is probably a missed cut in today's speed because that was actually the first major in like 5 or 6 that he was not in the top 5. and he actually had a few runner-ups, two wins, and then he missed the playoff by a stroke at St. Andrews. So that was the first major at Oakmont that he was not in the top five in for a while. So it was tough for him back then.
Yeah, it's set the path for a lot of poor US Open finishes to follow.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's if you're a Spieth fan, I think this week that's kind of your reason for a little bit of pessimism. I think he's a little bit of a different player now, which might help him, but I think I believe he was second or third in the data golf rankings entering that week at Oakmont, and it didn't go very
yeah.
well. But who knows? That's why we play the game. Um,
Mhm.
I was, happy as a big fan to see him out there on Sat. He was out there Saturday,
Yeah,
putting in the work, which, I my hat's off to him. He knows it's, one of the two biggest tournaments remaining this year, and I'm sure he knows the US Open finishes have not been very good in recent times, and
yeah.
you change that, by playing well in one of them.
And that's why it's good that they flopped the Memorial and Canada in the weeks because if he had to play Memorial this week and go straight to Oakmont, it's tougher and it would not have allowed him to get there on Saturday to see the golf course and like do his homework basically.
Yeah, and you're just worn out from that Memorial Week because that week
Yeah.
is no breather either. Especially playing out of that rough, and he
Yep.
found himself in some of those gnarly lies around that place, and it's going to be the same this week where you're chopping out and trying to minimize damage.
Yep. So overall, in terms of the event as a whole, looking at the 2016 leaderboard, there's like two or three guys that finished in the top 20 that still have that are still like viable contenders to win this week, at least in my opinion. You have Lowry, who was the 54 hole leader. Obviously, Bryson finished T15, and that was right after he turned professional. And Jason Day, who's still not quite at that level when he was the best player in the world, but he's still in the top 50, and he finished T8 that week. And Koepka finished T13, but he's has not played well in majors in the last 2 years. So that it should be an entirely different leaderboard, I'd expect.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think Lowry is, and then he's on the precipice of that win,
Mhm.
like big win. I know he won at Portrush in 2019, where we'll be next month. But
Yep.
he's been playing great golf all year, and it's like, when does he get over the hump? I don't know if it'll be this week. But it's funny you mentioned Bryson, and Bryson's a completely different player in terms of the way he picks apart a golf course now that he was 9 years ago. And you would think the
Yeah.
version of this Bryson, if he could finish T15 with whatever game he had in 16, why can't he you know, be in the mix deep on Sunday this week?
Being that like Oakmont exposes any weaknesses because of how demanding off the tee, and then the greens are very challenging as well. It's almost like you can find a weakness in any player in terms of their chances this week. Like with Scotty, it's almost hard to s say this, but with how he fared on the greens at Pinehurst last year, you wonder how he'll fare at Oakmont this year. And the U.S. Open greens have been a challenge for him in the past. So that's like Scotty's only weakness, in my opinion, because he's a machine ball striking wise, but that's something to watch as well.
No, it's a great point. I think I'm personally in my head like, how does he lose this golf tournament?
Mm,
And that's exactly how. He has a tough week on the greens, which is very believable. I
yeah.
know he's improved. He's improved from short range, but I mean these short range putts, test you more than any other course on tour outside of maybe Augusta National. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm very excited to see him take on the test this week, just because of how difficult a golf course is and the way he has the ball in a string, and hit it to point A to 40 feet and two putt and move on to the next hard hole. It's going to be fun
Yep.
to watch him kind of dissect the golf course.
And Oakmont's a place where putting from long range and lag putting is going to be very important. And Scotty actually is one of the leaders in three putt avoidance, but those this season, but those events that count for that aren't the Oakmont greens. So it's a completely different test for Scotty.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. That's kind of the only way I see him not, being in the mix on Sunday
Yeah.
is if the putter just doesn't cooperate. But it's certainly possible. He was the number one player at Pinehurst last year, and it didn't go very well. I think he tied with Jordan, which
Yeah. Somehow, yeah.
that's good for Jordan. Yeah, Scotty was what 8 over last year as the best player in the world, so it can happen. Um, he's I don't is he a better putter this? I think he is a better putter this
Definitely,
year,
yes.
but
I think he's in the top
um,
15 or so.
which is just absurd. But
Yeah.
I'm looking at his stats right now. He putted poorly at API. Didn't putt great at Colonial. I mean, it could happen. If he has a bad putting week, he
Yep.
could easily not win the golf tournament.
And he's still almost he barely made the cut at Colonial just like Jordan and he still almost won or was like in the top five. So it's hard to hold him back. And in terms of the other favorite this week at Oakmont, which is DeChambeau, you said that the game definitely fits him, or the course definitely fits his game better now than in 2016. The one weakness for him, which was on display at both Augusta and Quail Hollow, would be his irons. Now I think he got new irons last week for the live event, so we'll see how that works out. But outside of his irons, I mean, he drives the ball further than anybody, and he's pretty accurate as as well, especially for his distance. And his short game and putting, just like Scotty, is much improved as well. So it's just the irons for DeChambeau, I'd say.
Yeah, no, I think him and Scotty are definitely 1-2 this week, but there's a big gap between, I think, Scotty
Yeah.
and Bryson. But yeah, I think Bryson, I liked him at Quail Hollow, and he played pretty well there, and it'll be the same this week. I think he said he's going to try and attack this place like he attacked Winged Foot, and that obviously went pretty well.
Yep.
But yeah, you kind of said it. The approach play has not been great, and I think the way he kind of chips, I don't really know if this deep rough is necessarily great for him to be chipping out of. I think if he, finds it, with the drive off the tee, it's a little bit easier, but the way he chips around the greens, it could be
Hmm.
maybe a little bit of a problem. But I mean, if you offered me Scotty and Bryson versus the field, I think I'm leaning with those two this week. It's
Me
just tough to
too.
see. It's tough to see a lot of these guys that, are down, I guess, your odds book, playing well enough to keep up with those two.
Yeah. And in terms of in terms of Bryson at Winged Foot, he won by six, and the two courses are very much are pretty comparable, I would say, in terms of how they play and the fact that they're both demanding U.S. Open tests. So that should bode well for him, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're that Northeast type of golf. I'd, probably put Oakmont, Winged Foot, and Shinnecock all three together.
Mm,
They're just those classic Northeast long rough, really, really hard type of golf course. It'll be interesting. I mean, it's those two. I'm really hoping as a golf fan that we can, even if it's not Jordan, we can have, some other name in that mix on Sunday to compete with those two. Because I mean, it feels to me they're the two, you know, far and away best players in the world right now. I mean, maybe John Rahm is, kind of getting back there. He was in the mix at Quail
yeah,
Hollow a little bit, but I think Rory's what, your number four, and he just missed the cut by 7 last week. He doesn't seem
yeah,
like he's in prime form, especially, I think he's having a little bit of a hangover after the Masters. So, as a golf fan, I'm hoping we get some, even a random name in the mix come Sunday.
with all the driver stuff at the PGA and then the missed cut and everything else that's been and skipping Memorial, it doesn't seem like things are lining up for Rory right now. But I would say it's Scotty and Bryson, and then like a huge gap between the third. But it's only 72 holes, so there can be plenty of big names that come and challenge this week.
Yeah. No, it's funny too, because if they were far and away the one and two at, the Open next month, it's a completely different story just because of the golf course.
Yeah.
Um, it's just the way the US Open's kind of set up and what it requires from the players in the field. It just seems like those two are so far, head and heels above everyone else. But
Yeah.
uh that's why we play. And I mean, there's been some US Open winners that I kind of think of Gary Woodland at Pebble Beach a few years ago. Like he wasn't one of the top guns. I mean, he, had that US Open style of hitting it pretty far, but
Mhm.
um, you never know. That's why we play.
Yep. And two guys that have three combined US Opens and went to live and have been panned for their performances in majors recently would be DJ and Kepka. And DJ won here in 2016, but has not been anywhere near that level recently. So, what do you think about their chances this week?
Yeah, it's two guys I really don't hate. It's kind of,
Mhm.
thinking about that Ryder Cup team a little bit. Looks like neither of those two are going to be anywhere close to the
Oh,
team. Yeah, it's tough to expect really anything from either of them this week. I think, DJ's got the good vibes, but I mean, you look at the statistics and it's been pretty ugly.
yeah.
Um, I don't know what everyone's thoughts on Liv are, but you get that big paycheck. Maybe you stop working as hard. Maybe there's some of that involved. But he's older too. He's what, 38 years old now?
I think he's like
Um,
over 40 now.
yeah, so he's over 40. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're spot on, man. He turns 41 next month. I mean, he's getting older. I mean, it's as simple as that. Maybe he just doesn't have any more. Brooks. The thing with Brooks is I was reading on Twitter yesterday. A lot of people think he's hurt.
Yep, I did see
Um,
a few
yeah,
of his trackers were discussing that this weekend. So that's
yeah.
probably an issue.
I don't think it's for a lack of not caring on his part. I mean, he's had the body issues for a while now. I mean, I think back to the Masters a few years ago. It's just been health for him, and he's just not been able to stay healthy. And, it's been a pretty ugly year on Live, it looks like for him. Tough to expect a whole lot. Um, I think if either of those two can make the cut, I mean, they might be feeling pretty good.
Yeah. I watched both guys, at least for parts of their rounds at the PGA, and DJ was couldn't make a putt, especially from short range, and Kepka's driver was all over the place. So it's and they both missed the cut by a mile. I think DJ only beat like a bunch of professionals or
Oof.
yeah, a bunch of teaching professionals. So had a rough week, and it's even and if he can't get his game back this week, when he'll have lots of attention from his win in 2016. It's like, when else is he gonna get back?
I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, he's got the good vibes going into this week, kind of like you mentioned, but he just hasn't, been in good form in a good while now. I'm kind of looking at his live. He's got three top tens on the live tour.
He
You
finished
want to put,
last once as well, I think.
yeah. So he's kind of been all over the
That
place.
includes guys like Anthony Kim and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, you kind of said it well. And he's, MC at the majors so far this year. So kind of speaks for itself. I mean, I think it's kind of the same thing on the PGA Tour. I mean, you can play somewhat decently on the tour, and then you go to these major venues where it's really hard,
Mm.
and it's just the margin. Like you can scrap by on the tour playing, okay, and still card a decent finish, but these majors really expose your flaws.
And two guys that have sort of had that track record this season, and they both won signature events, but I believe they've missed both have missed both cuts in majors. Would be Straka and Henley, and they're pretty similar players in the sense that they don't have lots of length, but they are pretty strong otherwise. So how do you think those two will fare this week?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of it's kind of funny. Some of my friends have been like Russell Henley shouldn't be on the Ryder Cup team, and I'm like, I don't think so. I think he 100% should be. I think he's
He
been
might
very consistent.
he might actually qualify automatically.
Yeah, I hope he does. So he,
Yeah.
tells the naysayers to be quiet because he's just nothing but consistent. He played really well at Memorial last week, and it's a really good question, George, because there's a lot of people this week that they're not sure how important distance will be. I mean, everyone's saying you got to hit the fairways, which seems pretty,
Yep.
vital. If you're not playing from the fairway, you got no chance at Oakmont. But my gut tells me they'll both probably play poorly. I think distance is just going to be very important this week.
Yeah.
Um, it's just there's not many U.S. Opens. If you kind of look at the history of winners going back the last, 5 to 10 years, you're not finding like anyone who doesn't hit it far for the most part. Um, and I don't think Sepp Straka's got a great short game statistically. And I mean, some of these lies this week, I mean, you're gonna have to figure it out. And I just don't know if
Yep.
he's gonna be able to. But I mean, they're two good players, very similar, kind of as you said, both guys who I think undoubtedly should be representing USA and Europe respectively in the Ryder Cup.
Mhm.
Good players. I think distance is going to be really important this week. I think if you want to win, I think you could play well probably without distance. I mean, there's going to be guys in that top 20 that don't hit it far, obviously.
Yeah.
But to win, I think you're going to need to hit it probably relatively far just with how long the golf course is.
Yeah. I'd say at least high 170s, low 180s in terms of ball speed off the tee.
Jordan falls on that, so
If he's like high, yeah, he's 178 now, I think is his like range usually.
yeah.
That
So
that,
I
that, that
think
could
you're
go well
spot
for
on.
him.
I think you're spot on.
Yeah. Now a guy that a big name that's in the top 10 that I'm down at or that down on for this week, and then there's a guy that's also in the top 10 that I have no clue what to expect this week would be JT. I think you guys discussed this last week. He doesn't hit enough fairways with his driving to contend at Oakmont, and then Oberg, he could contend and it wouldn't shock me, or he could miss the cut and it wouldn't sh sh shock me either.
Yeah, I mean JT's kind of had, the bugaboo in the majors as of late. Um, I'm trying to think. He obviously won at Southern Hills, but I mean, since then it's been
Yeah,
really, really ugly. I think he's got one top 10 in like
I think
his
at
last,
Valhalla,
yeah.
it's his only top 10.
And funny enough, that's one of the easier major venues we've probably played in the last
Yep.
3 years.
Yeah, way too easy.
Yeah, so it's JT. I don't know. I mean, playing from this rough all day, he's going to need to hit it a lot straighter than kind of what he's shown. And yeah, Ludwig's kind of been a guy I've hated on. I think he's been a little bit overrated by the media, a little bit by,
Yeah,
the sports books for your sports bettors out there.
he's been like
But
crowned as
he's,
the next big
yeah.
golfer, and he hasn't done enough to earn it yet, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, and he'll be 26 years old by the end of this year. So it's not like he was an early bloomer like Jordan was, who was winning, major championships at 21. But Ludwig's got two straight top 20s where he's kind of hit the ball well in both of them, and he's been a player. I mean, I said he's a little bit overrated, but he comes to play in majors.
Yep.
I'm kind of looking at his numbers right now. He's been pretty boomer bust. He's got a 2, a 7, and a T12, and then 3 missed cuts. So it's you either bet him to miss the cut this week or bet him to probably top 10. So we'll see. But he's played a couple nice straight weeks in a row where he's, hit the ball well, and you're going to need to hit the ball well this week.
hmm it's hard to expect guys who are just not in good form at all to come into Oakmont and find their game. So that would toss out guys like Wyndham Clark, Dunlap, guys like that, especially the Dunlap, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean he's had the driver issues for a while
Oh
now. I
my.
mean been pretty lost off the tee. And yeah, Wyndham Clark is another guy who just doesn't hit fairways. But it's kind of funny though. Like I'm saying, I think to win the golf tournament, you're gonna need to hit fairways. But in that top 20, there will be guys that don't hit fairways that make a lot of putts, and there'll be guys that hit it short that make a lot of putts as well. And but yeah, to win, you're gonna probably need to set yourself apart. I think this golf U.S. Open venues typically do a pretty good job. You'll get some scores in the 80s this week, obviously, but you'll probably see a guy on Thursday maybe go shoot 65. Um, it does a good job of, telling you who's playing good golf and
Mhm.
who's way off.
Going back to Dunlap on the data golf, the last time he's gained strokes off the tee was the BMW last year. So it's been almost 10 months of terrible driving for him.
It's kind of funny to think that, looking back at Jordan Spieth and you go back to 2019 and with how lost he was off the tee, I don't think it was ever near that bad.
No, this is like insane.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the thing with Jordan too. Like Jordan's like worst times have still been like average. And that's obviously not the standard for Spieth, but he's never been a player like to not gain strokes off the tee in 20 straight events. Like he
Yeah,
finds a way typically to, show some sign of, respectability. Even that 2019 year, I mean, he had Bethpage Black where he putted his way to a T3, and he had a couple other finishes where he posted respectable scores.
and the worst was at Winged Foot, which is the last time that the event was held at a course like this, when he basically said that he is standing on the first tee at the U.S. Open and he has no clue where his ball was going to go, which is
Yeah.
not the way to play at Winged Foot or Oakmont.
No, he was adding them up very quickly at Winged Foot, and I'll probably forever continue to think that was rock bottom just
Yep.
because, I mean, he was 14 over par. I mean, that's these US Open venues, they really can make professional golfers look pretty embarrassed out there, and that's kind of how that week went. I mean, he
Yeah.
kind of shot 73 on Thursday, and that's not the end of the world, but, that Friday round was
Brutal.
really brutal, and, he looked pretty mentally checked out.
Especially since he played with the guy that was the 36 hole leader that week, I believe, with Patrick Reed.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was
Yeah.
that was a brutal week. I think the good news as we head into Oakmont this week, though, is he's not heading onto the first tee, not knowing where the ball is going to go.
Yeah.
I think he's got swings in the bag where he might not know where it's going to go, but I think there's a good portion that he's got a pretty good handle on, which is, a good thing to have.
And just one more guy for this week. I would say I would probably pick him to contend or win if he was having a better year, but with his rib injury and he hasn't really been had a great finish since he's been back would be Xander, since Xander I don't think has like a true weakness. He's pretty high level at every aspect of the game. I'm not sure if there's anything that he's like the best in the world at, but he's pretty high strong across the board. It's just with his form and his getting back from his injury, it's hard to expect too much out of him this week.
Yeah, injuries are tough. I mean, and in golf, especially because they force you to take time off, and it's like, all right, this first month is just going to be my first month back into professional golf in a long while. And it could, as we've kind of seen with Xander, I mean, it's just he was playing at such a high level, and then you got to try and build back up to it. It's hard. And I mean, his biggest thing that's kind of taken, a step back this year, I mean, a lot of it has, but he's just not hitting fairways. And I mean, this week it's going to be quite tough if you're not hitting fairways, and it's a little bit worrisome as, a proud American with the Ryder Cup coming up, and he's going to be on that team. There's no doubt about it, but he's going to be on that team with a lot worse form than, the form he had to earn all those points to become an automatic qualifier, which I assume he'll probably still be just because he has enough of a
Yeah.
cushion.
Winning two majors should give him enough
Yeah.
cushion, but it's like, and the injury happened in January as well, which is the right at the beginning of the season, so it's couldn't have been worse timing either.
No, not at all. It's just these injuries are just brutal. And I think the thing that's kind of sucked for him is it's like he got injured early in the year, and it's like his first like step back into playing golf was tournaments. And like I think about Jordan with the wrist surgery, like Jordan was hitting balls for a couple months before, I mean, he was doing stuff before, getting back into tournaments. Come Pebble Beach, like Xander, when you get hurt in the year, you can't really like spend time away to work on your game. You work on your game by entering tournaments and playing. And it's just Jordan, thankfully had a little bit easier of you know, a, a grace period kind of to where, I mean, we saw it at Phoenix, a second start back. He pretty much contended in the golf tournament because he put in months of work before. Xander kind of hasn't had that luxury.
Yep. Now, here's a fun fact about the US Open in 2016. Th- and I saw this on Wikipedia. So round one got delayed by the rain, so they couldn't finish the round. And on Thursday night, when they suspended play, the leader in the clubhouse, who had posted the lowest score at the time, was amateur Scotty Scheffler. So he has like some history at this course as well.
Oh, it's not a good sign, George, is it?
No. He did shoot a 77 the next day to miss the cut by one, but definitely
Sheesh.
him shooting a 669 at this course during his amateur days is definitely not a good sign for this week.
No, it's not. It's funny too. I've kind of become, as a Jordan fan, I'm not, a Texan or anything like that. I'm up in the Northeast, but
Mhm.
I've always been like, I want him to be that top Texan. And I'm like coming to the point where that's just not going to be the case.
Yeah.
Scotty's got three majors. He seems a lot closer to a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, and Jordan seems to another one, which is fine. But I've really come to just enjoy watching him. I mean, he makes hard golf look so. I mean,
Yeah.
just watching him at Memorial last week, where he had that round where he had what 14 pars and then birdied four of his last five, and that 16 through 18 stretch is brutal, and he just makes it look so easy. Like that's just. It's one thing to birdie a par five, but he makes hard golf holes look pretty darn easy, which is fun to watch.
I mean, his bounce back uh, ability is one of his strengths as well, like especially at East Lake last year when he shanked that bunker shot and then on the next hole, he like stuck it to 4 feet on a par three with a 4 iron and ran away with the event still. So it's like he never gets down either, basically.
No, he's special player. I always have people that are asking me like, how does he do it? And it's like Jordan makes everything look hard. And I think the main thing is, it helps when you hit the center of the club face on a really routine basis.
Yeah.
And, he does it all the time. And it's just like your margin for error is a lot lower when you're doing that. And that's what separates him from everyone else. It's fun. I think, I I've been doing my page for I think 7 years now and kind of witnessing this guy. I mean, we've seen John Rahm, we've seen Rory, and I'm not to crap on Rory. Rory's obviously a phenomenal player, but this guy, it seems to be he's pretty darn close to being the best player since Tiger, and to be able to see it, with my own two eyes while I'm watching a lot of golf, it's cool. I'm kind of curious to see what he can do if he can stay healthy, because I think that's the big bugaboo. I mean, can he
Mhm.
stay healthy? Because I don't see him losing a lot of his talent. It's just, can he the longevity part of the game?
Yeah. I think Tiger was 32 when he won at Torrey Pines, and that was his 14th major, is besides Augusta a few years ago. And but his issue was his health was all downhill from there.
Yeah.
Scotty, if I think Scotty's going to be 29 in a few weeks, so if he stays healthy, he should have more of a runway to probably not catch Tiger, but at least make up ground.
Yeah, I mean, it puts into perspective how special Tiger was. I mean, even going back to what Jordan did, like it takes serious talent to win major championships at 21 years old. Um, Scotty got kind of a late start, so it's probably going to impede his, overall total. But we shall see. we shall see. It'll be fun to watch unfold over the next, however many years.
Yep. And Jordan has played 20 holes, at least over the weekend, and I believe he played with JT and Bud Cauley this morning. I looked and saw, and I couldn't find him on the Tuesday or Wednesday for a practice round yet, but but he's definitely been definitely if he doesn't contend this week, it shouldn't be for lack of preparation.
No, absolutely not. It looks like it'll probably be 36 holes of, pre-tournament preparation. Um, he's not missing anything, that's for sure. He's going to make
Yep.
sure he's ready come that first tee on Thursday morning or afternoon. And he should. I mean, he hasn't. I'd probably assume he hasn't been back at Oakmont since 2016. So 9 years later, I know there's been a little bit of a restoration. There's been some changes. Him and the rest of the guys are making sure that, they see everything.
Yep. And just after this week, looking ahead to the rest of the season for Jordan, he'll play the Travelers the week after. And the thing I've noticed is that he usually plays the Travelers when the US Open is on the East Coast. But I believe the 2 years recently that he skipped Travelers was when it was at Torrey and LACC. So sometimes when it's on the West Coast, he doesn't make the cross country trip after a major.
Yeah, I mean, the US Open's grueling enough. Then you add in a 5 hour plus flight from the West Coast to the East Coast, and I think that the tournament staff at the Travelers will be very happy that not only this year but next year at Shinnecock Hills, it's staying on the East Coast, and there should be a lot of guys coming to Travelers, and having the signature event designation doesn't hurt either.
Yep. And with Jordan at a Travelers outside of 2017 and the first round of the next year in 2018, when I believe he was the first round leader that year and stumbled over the weekend. This course has not served him as well, especially last year when he didn't even earn any world ranking points from the event. So it's been hasn't he has the memorable bunker shot, which is probably the most, or at least one of the most iconic shots of his career. But outside of that, this has not been as friendly of a course.
It's really not. It's kind of interesting too. I mean, you look at his stats from every year he's played at the Travelers, and he's lost strokes off the tee every single time he's teed it up here. Or not here, but at TPC River Highlands. It's just weird. It's got to be something with the sight lines there. I mean, he's played it 6 times and he's over 6. It's just something just doesn't, match his eye off the tee. It's crazy to think when he won, he was still lost strokes off the tee that year.
Yeah.
Just something doesn't match up there. I would think in theory it's probably a pretty decent, fit right now for his game. I think you can get away with some loose shots there compared to some other places where you can get in real trouble. Um, and he's given it another go. Maybe he can finally make it, 1 for 7 and gain shots off the tee this year.
Hopefully. He won at I think it was Tim and Berger were 12 under that year. Recently, the course has gotten more picked apart where it's like high teens, low 20s is what it takes to win.
Yeah, the thing with the Northeast, it's like we just get so much rain up here, and I'm sure it'll be that way next week too. We've been getting quite a bit of rain coming through. It'll play soft, and they just tear it apart. It is pretty cool when it does get firm. That place can play, relatively tough, but it's just when it's soft, that course I think it's the shortest course on tour. They just tear it apart.
Yep, and with the softness and soft conditions without any wind is almost always a birdie fest for those guys.
Yeah, it's certainly a recipe for low scores.
Yeah. So after Travelers, I'm not quite sure about his schedule in July since he's supposed to have his third child at some point. So we'll see for sure about that. But I would assume he'll probably play the Scottish and then the Open. It would be his two events, and then either Wyndham and I think you thought the same thing the other day. It would be Wyndham and or potentially Wyndham, and then as many events in the playoffs as he qualifies for.
Yeah, as many events in the playoffs as he does qualify for. Hopefully, we'll be back at East Lake this year. But yeah, I think Wyndham is probably points dependent, depending on how this these next four events go. I think if he gets the points necessary, I don't really see him. Especially he's gonna have the newborn will be here by now. From like a personal level, I think he'd want to spend time with his new child.
Yeah.
So I think that's unlikely. And then John Deere, it just seems like he doesn't need points that badly this year. I think he's in a decent spot, and I don't know what he is right now, like in the 40s or the low
40th, I
50s.
think.
Yeah, so he's in a lot better spot this year than last year. I think he went last year because he needed the points. Seems to be in a better spot this year. And then yeah, you obviously add in a third child. I don't think he's going to want to play any more than he has to.
And you'll be there if he makes the BMW, I believe, right?
If he does make the BMW, I will be there, yes.
And that would also mean that we don't have to hear about sponsor exemptions for next year, which would be awesome, especially since people are somehow complaining about him getting into these events.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, kind of one that always passes by me that if he does get into that BMW championship there, he's into all the signature events next year. I
Hmm.
think he'll, selfishly appreciate it as well. I'm sure he hears a little bit of the noise like I'm playing because I got the sponsor invite and he obviously got, held out of the Arnold Palmer Invitational because he didn't get the sponsor's invite. So
Yeah.
he can take care of that pretty quickly if, he makes it to the Baltimore area come August.
Mm. And you said in your Q&A that you think that his one of his best chance to win could be the Scottish. I would definitely agree, except in the last 2 years, his putting at that course has not been there at all, and he missed that famously missed that 18-inch putt in 2023, helped lead to him missing the cut there. So it's almost like I need to see him putt well at that course to believe it.
No, it's a very fair complaint. I was leaning Scottish because I was kind of looking at like the statistical profile of what kind of wins there, and it's tough to find a fit right now for him to be 100% honest because he doesn't do anything great. I think he drives it good. He drives it pretty darn well, but besides that, it's like he doesn't putt it great till at these putting contest type of courses to make a ton of putts. And the approach play is just so up and down. Um, it's tough to find a good course for him right now. That's why I was kind of leaning the Scottish because I think you can play that place a little bit, some different ways. You don't have to bomb it there by any stretch of the imagination. He obviously loves links golf. Hasn't played there well the last couple of years, but I think he's a better player this time around.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be the first time playing links golf, with the surgery done too. So it'll be interesting to see, how the wrist cooperates over there.
And we've got Oakmont this week, but the next major will also be held at a top tier golf course at Portrush. He always plays these courses well with the at the Open, it seems, and he's got, I believe, even last year he finished top 25 as well. So and since 2015, his only non-top 25 was at the Open was at Troon in 2016 when I believe he got the worst end of the draw that year with the weather. So he always comes to play at the Open, it seems.
Yeah, it wasn't the first time he got the bad end of the draw either.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
he always brings it over there. I've having it's just an awesome tournament, I think, for him. I've really grown to love it. It's awesome when your favorite player plays so well at, a tournament. You come to like it even more, and it's always fun. The early morning wake up and he's usually going to give it a pretty good shot over there and shoot some good scores and make it fun to wake up in the middle of the night and watch golf. So yeah, Portrush will be fun. I think he fared well pretty decently there in 19. And anytime he gets on links golf, he just seems to find something. I mean, you kind of said it with his record there. The only, poor finish was 16 at Royal Troon.
Yep. And the last event of the, or hopefully the last event of the year for Jordan would be the Bethpage for the Ryder Cup. And I agree that if the team is picked today, he'll probably be on it. I think yesterday Sam Burns probably helped his case a lot with that final round 62 and near victory in Canada. But lots of Tony Finau's, Batia, Wyndham Clark, Homa, those guys are kind of playing their way off the team, whereas I think Jordan's hasn't has definitely not locked himself on yet, but he's making a good case for himself, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of been of the belief he's in a pretty decent spot. He's just playing consistently. I mean, he's not con I don't know what the captain's going to want in terms of his captain's picks. Is he going to want guys that are in deep contention on Sundays, or is he going to want someone like Jordan who's just been consistent? He's got the top 25s. He's not, missing cuts by five, six shots. He's not all over the place. But I mean, the easy way to, fix that is to get into contention a time or two and, show you can kind of do both.
I'd say he has one good finish at either a major or a signature event, which the only one left is the Travelers or a playoff event, and that would basically secure his spot on the team, I would say.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty well said. I think I tend to think, yeah, if he gets into deep contention once at, one of these somewhat sizable, good events, then he'd probably be locked in. I'm just sitting here waiting on it. It'd be fun to get back into contention and, really get pumped up on a Sunday, hopefully soon.
Outside of Spieth, with some of the big names faltering, I would say guys like Novak, Griffin's probably a or close to a lock at this point. Uh, who else? Berger, Harris English, McNeely. Those are the guys that are probably fighting for those last few spots.
Yeah, no, I mean, you could pick your poison with really any of those guys you kind of just listed. That's kind of who Jordan's competing with right now.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I think you named about six. That might be your six captain's picks right there.
and I haven't seen either one of these guys' names floated around in a while, but I think Tom Hoagie, who's a good iron player, might, if he plays well this summer, could be a potential pick. And Lucas Glover, who is had a good finish at the Players, if he has another a strong major or two and contends this summer, he could be a pick as well, based on the fact that he's actually won at Bethpage before.
Yeah, no, I think you make a great point. I mean, we're still 3 months away. Um, there's a lot that can happen in 3 months, but
Hmm.
from a guy like kind of like a Hoagie or a Glover, they get hot. They can easily play their way onto the team.
Even this week, if like Kepka contends or wins somehow, he's all of a sudden back in the mix as well. So there's still lots of golf that will determine who makes the team.
Yeah, Kepka's an interesting one because I think back to the Truist Championship earlier this month, I think Keegan Bradley had like a dinner, and the only two live guys that were invited were Bryson and Brooks.
Mm.
So Keegan clearly hasn't written off Brooks yet, and we'll see if he can maybe get hot here over these next 2, 3 months.
Yeah. Now his issue is that in Rome, him and Scotty had that disaster of a match against I think it was Ludwig and Hovland. So if and Scotty's obviously he's actually officially on the team I saw last week, but Kepka with his performance in majors is still not quite or not even close at this point.
No, he's not. He's not on my radar. But he's I think if you're valuing experience, he has it, and he obviously has the ceiling to get hot, and he's playing at, his first or second favorite golf tournament in the world this week. So we'll see if maybe he can find it at a place where he maybe he'll feel a little bit of comfort.
Yep. And with one more Ryder Cup thing, with we mentioned him before, but Henley, if he gets that pick, if you remember last year in Montreal, he teamed up with Scheffler, and they were very effective in some matches. So with Scotty having struggled in Rome, having a guy like Henley who he potentially is compatible with could be a good match at a Bethpage.
No, I fully agree. I think the US sometimes overthinks their picks. If he's not an automatic selection, he's easily one of the top 12 Americans in the world. Just pick the guys that are playing the best golf. I think they
Yep.
sometimes play their relationship game or they get a little bit cute. I think if you just pick the top 12 who are playing the best, you'd probably do a lot better than their record has been, specifically in Europe for a Ryder Cup.
And Bay Hill is a tough course, just like Bethpage. So the fact that he's won there in what would be 6 months bef before the event, but should give him a good chance to make the team.
Yeah, no, absolutely great point. I'm not a fan of Russell Henley, but I fully believe he should absolutely be on the team unless he falls
Yep.
off a cliff here these next 2, 3 months.
Me too. Now, but before we wrap up, two questions about this week's US Open. So one would be, is Jordan more likely to finish top 10 or have the weekend off? And two would be, what do you expect the winning score will be?
Against my I'm gonna go with the miscut. I see a lot more ways to a miscut than a top 10. If you would have said top 20, I might have thought about it for a little bit, but um pains me to say it. The US Open history at this point kind of stands for itself, and he's just gonna need to do something different to really change my opinion. So I would go miscut. Unfortunately, I really don't want him to miss the cut. I think the bare minimum this week is kind of what I'm looking at. He's got to make the cut and play some decent golf over the weekend. Winning score, I will go. I forgot what I said in my Q&A. I think I got the question. But I'll go 5 under, and I'll Scotty's my winner. I'll say that as well. I think he wins by like 3 or 4. Um, I think I I just think he's gonna do what he does. And the thing that's so impressive about him is every time he wins, it's typically in a blowout fashion, like it isn't close.
Yeah.
Um, so I'll take Scotty at 5 under. That's kind of my prediction.
Yep. He- There was not like one moment at both the PGA and Memorial from Saturday night until the end of the event that I didn't think he was going to win both events.
No,
It's
it's
like,
inevitable at this
yeah,
point.
yeah. And if you if with all the hype that the course has been getting with the videos and everyone's saying how hard it is, I think people will probably be disappointed if the score gets to -5. But if there's a guy that will do it, it would be Scotty probably.
Yeah, these guys are good, and he's good at making the hard look relatively simple. Not simple, but
Yeah.
making it look less challenging than what it really is.
Yep. And if going back to the first question, if you told me that Jordan will finish in the top 20, I would probably sign for that
Yeah, no, absolutely. I
now.
think that'd be a
Or
really
the
nice stepping stone as we enter
yeah,
this, I guess, summer stretch
yeah. It would
after this
probably
week off.
be his best, or if a top 20 has a chance to be his best week of the year, as crazy as that sounds, given his track record at the event and how hard the course is. I would say a top 20 would be a huge for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'd sign for a non-competitive top 20 if he makes the cut on the number and plays well over the weekend, probably in a
And
heartbeat.
the this is a course that if you make the cut on the number and shoot two rounds of even par on the weekend, it's like a top 15, top 20. So if you're
Yeah.
making the cut on the number, that pretty much has to be your mindset, I would say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the early morning Saturday, Sunday weekend tee time, backdooring yourself into a good finish as the other guys play through the carnage. Absolutely.
Definitely possible at the US Open.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So we thank you again for coming on, and everyone can check you out at Spieth Tracker on Instagram, where you'll have all the you'll be on your story during Jordan's rounds this week and going forward. You'll always be you or someone else will always be tracking his specific shot by shot th- at the events and also on the Go Get That podcast with Spieth Legion, Bob, and Spieth Analysis, who's Dan. Are you guys doing a live show for this week?
Yeah,
Everyone can.
Bob is there, so we'll probably
Oh,
do
yep,
something Wednesday night, I would think. That's typically been our go-to on the majors, has been Wednesday night.
yep. The night before, and sometimes Elise joins as well.
Yes, at least a good friend of the podcast.
Yep. And Bob was actually at Muirfield Village as well, and almost got his head taken off.
Yeah, he's had a
First
fun
hole
go
on
around. He's
Sunday.
was at Murfield Village, he's at Oakmont, he'll be at Travelers next week, and we were at
Yep.
Truist together earlier this year. So he's had his fair share of
Yep.
fun. Anyone who's at Phoenix. So
And he'll be there for hopefully for the BMW as well.
yeah, absolutely for sure.
Yep, so you can definitely be sure to check both the podcast out and his and Jordan's Spieth tracker Instagram this week and going forward. They do a fantastic job over there. And thank you again for joining us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, George. Thanks for having me again.